Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. Um, a confession. Bob and I, Robert, Jordan and I, Father Bob, we've been chatting now for, uh, hey, it's almost an hour, just chatting and getting to know each other. And why? Because in reading Bob's journey, Pastor Robert Jordan's journey to here, uh, as I said, as I digested it, it's such a journey that it could be a screenplay, and you all can be the judge of that. Growing up in Ulster County and farming and stuff, and he then goes to school and gets a degree in criminal justice and another degree in political science, and his life is moving on, and somewhere along the line, not that he'll talk about this, the Navy and the tours of duty and the stuff he's done in the Navy and the pictures I've seen is outstanding and unbelievable. Enduring freedom. I'm looking at my notes. Iraqi freedom. I was deployed to the Western Pacific, the Mediterranean, the Arabian Gulf. A wow. I mean, this is a wow. And then wait till you all hear the story of the divinity and that religious aspect of this wonderful part of his journey. So I'm stuttering because this is quite a life of devotion and caring and a special life, and the things that he's seen, and now he's down in Virginia Beach, uh, um, and he's going for a PhD, and he can talk about that in ministry. What a wow! And so I'm so thrilled and honored, uh, Robert, Bob, that you're here. So why don't you do a little bit of like a little intro,
Mhm.
little background, and then we'll talk. Take it
All
away.
right. Well, first, Calvin, thank you so much. I'm so honored that you invited me on the show. It really is incredible. Uh, and in our introductory talk, I was just so amazed by your background and all the things that your life has transpired in your life, and just incredible things. So. It's a testament to a life well lived and continue to do so, and you touch so many people, and I'm just humbled the fact that I'm on your broadcast today. So thank you so much, sir.
Well, thank
A
you.
little bit about a little bit about me. As Calvin had mentioned, I grew up in this idyllic upstate New York village of 300 people. Just a wonderful, wonderful place. It's called Saint Remy, settled by the Dutch, and just beautiful little place, and just so grateful that I could have grown up in this little village. Um, and at the heart of it all was this small little Dutch Reformed church, and that would really anchor me in my faith, right? And so growing up there with all the trials and tribulations of childhood and adolescence and teenage years and all that, that no matter what I did, no matter where I went, I always had to pass the church going home, right? And so that really kept me grounded. And we actually at one time we had a Quaker who was the pastor there for a while because we needed a stand-in, if you will. One of the pastors had moved on, and so we had his name was Jesse Stanfield. I'll never forget him. He was just what a wonderful man. We had another pastor we had there. He was from India, and yeah, and he was Reverend Manet, Ebenezer Manet, a wonderful man. So we had a rich history of pastors who were just filled with the Holy Spirit. And in fact, the current Reverend there, I've known him for well over 30 years. David Brechter, and I communicate with him. You know, he sends me his sermon every week, and I call him throughout the year a couple of times just to stay grounded. And it's just remarkable, that little village, and how I still stay grounded now that my parents have passed, and into the kingdom of heaven. But still, I have roots there in that little village. But I did start farming. I was the president of the Future Farmers of America chapter there in Ulster County while I was in high school. From high school, I did attend Ulster County Community College, now SUNY Ulster. After graduating there, I farmed beef cattle, raised hay, sold crops, and all the rest, you know. And then I decided to return to university. I attended the State University of Albany, graduated there. But a pivotal moment in our nation's history was the first bombing of the World Trade Center in 1993. And I said, now is the time. I have to serve my country, gain worldly maturity.
Wow.
And I wanted to go to law school. And so I wanted to serve publicly, and I needed that worldly maturity to see what the world was like, having grown up in that small village. And so I enlisted. I enlisted for 4 years. My first duty station, of course, would be in Japan. So there's my worldly maturity, eyes wide open, right? I really enjoyed serving in the Navy, so I re-enlisted for another 6 years, and with the idea that I would serve 10 years, return to Albany Law School, and then serve publicly. But I was serving here in Virginia the morning of 9/11, and of course that changed everything. And I knew I would serve in the Navy until the Navy would no longer need my service, and I served for another 18 years.
Wow.
And I deployed around the world. I served 5 tours of duty in Afghanistan
Wow.
with it's the finest warriors, the most skilled tactical technicians, the most devoted patriots, both afloat and, like I said, on the ground there in Afghanistan. Really, although I was an armed combatant, and of course I've sent you a couple of pictures from that era, but one of the things I did learn was in a combat zone, no better environment than to extend humanity. I know that sounds strange, but what I did do, I gained a great affinity with the Afghan people, which would then later serve me as when I retired from the military, I established my own nonprofit, Bright Future Philanthropy Corporation, which I serve the people of Afghanistan and Kabul, and widows, orphans, those at risk, the poor, of course, trying to meet their needs because of the abject poverty there. And so, um, you know, I left the military in 2019 at the Pentagon. I served, and you know, I did very well in the military. I was a senior enlisted advisor, later to become a chief warrant officer as a commissioned officer. I retired at the Pentagon, as I said. That was the pinnacle of my Navy career. I served a couple of years as a Navy contractor after my retirement. And then I worked for Christian Broadcasting Network here in Virginia Beach, Operation Blessing, as a international operations director, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, which was an incredible experience. But then in 2023, the Lord just moved me, and I just had to follow Him again. And I left Operation Blessing to just serve the poor, those at risk around the world, especially in Afghanistan, but also ministry here locally with the Ministry of Celebrate Recovery. I minister to those afflicted and addicted. I also have an international scope of ministry with prayer groups and things. So I've been very busy post retirement.
Wow.
Also an author of 11 books.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's been pretty busy, my life. And of course, like you mentioned, I'm a doctoral student, so yeah. But I'm very grateful for everything in my life and how it's, you know, meandered through it all and
Yeah.
richly blessed. No doubt about that.
Wow. It is a wow. I'm telling you, it is a screenplay. Just one quick question before we dive into, as I'm listening to you talk about Afghanistan, I watch the news and I digest things and the regime there. It makes it really difficult. The work that you're doing and the charity and the things you raise is are there sound ways to get that aid to those people?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yes, I have trusted individuals there that distribute the aid that I send, uh, which everything, because of the local economy, everything that it was purchased locally. So that helps. One, that helps the local economy, and two, it helps the individuals.
okay.
So that's the way I do it. Rather than to ship things over, it's so costly to ship, merchandise or relief items there. We decided to purchase it locally there on the economy, so it helps the economy in itself. So yes.
Okay. Okay. Because you have these stereotypical views of life
Hmm.
there and how oppressive it is, and sometimes
Yes.
you wonder if
Hmm.
stuff is getting to the people. Um, so you touched a little bit on your early life. Um, I like this question. Did you have like heroes growing up?
Hmm.
Um, like
Yes, I did.
yeah.
Yeah. I foremost is my father. Um, he was a World War II veteran, and I used to look at his uh, memorabilia from World War II. He had a photo album, and I used to I he kept it in a dresser drawer, and I used to look at it repeatedly. I was just awestruck at this and all these pictures of him from World War II, and I just found my dad to be just 3 feet taller than, of course, he really was, right? And just just broad shouldered, giant of a man, which he was only 5'8". But to me, he was that kind of, he was just a man's man. And I looked up to him, and he was without doubt my hero. Yeah.
Did he have it's funny. I've my father-in-law. My father was not in the army. He had some physical things, but my father-in-law was. One of my biggest regrets is never having sat down with my father-in-law. He served in North Africa and Italy, and he actually fled Poland when he was a teenager. So he came here in the 30s and became a citizen. Um, but were you ever able to really talk to your father about some of the military things? I know a lot of times veterans don't like to talk about their military experiences. And I mean, I've interviewed. One of my things was I tried to interview veterans of World War II as a journalist, and a lot of times they're reluctant to talk about the service.
Mhm.
But you did they told you stuff?
I did. I was really blessed because I was so fascinated by it. And again, with this little village that I grew up in, they had a really interesting role on the home front during World War II. So I did spend a lot of time with my dad and my mom speaking about what they both did in World War II. So number one, my dad was enlisted in the Coast Guard. Now, in
Wow.
World War II, his specific role was with the lighthouse service, and he was stationed on these very remote lighthouses for German submarine watch, right?
Wow.
Very unique service that people don't
Yeah.
even think about.
Right.
My mom was a Rosie the Riveter. She worked in defense plants locally, making hydraulic components for Navy aircraft. And the connection with the village that I grew up in, they had uh, a 24-hour tower that they used to spot aircraft flying over. Of course, the real threat was they thought that the Germans would somehow, bomb the coast of the United States, which they never did. But and so they used this. They had a civil defense where at night they used to black out the all the windows in things like that that it
Right.
never materialized, but they did anyway. And they used to man when I say man, people from the village would take turns spotting aircraft and then calling ahead to the next tower. Oh, we have this particular aircraft overhead, But and so I interviewed a couple other folks from that era about the towers, and it's just from a bygone era. But one of the things with my dad, before I entered into the Navy, I was able to take my dad back to Maine. We actually we were able to go back to the lighthouses and visit. We actually chartered a helicopter to fly over the lighthouses so we could take aerial photographs and video. And my dad was also in a hospital for several months in Maine in a VA Veterans Department of Veterans Affairs hospital, and we actually were able to visit that, which is no longer a hospital, but we were able to venture to visit that location as well. So because of that, I was able to write a book about both my parents, their war service here on the home front. So yeah, yeah.
I do have I went to your website. You're so prolific in writing. I just arbitrarily just picked out Mackenzie's Good Fortunes.
Yep, that's true. Yeah,
Yep, I
yeah.
picked that out just to kind of show to folks there's so many that you have. And this I think is kind of new, emotional healing, coloring pages for
Hmm.
people living with PTSD.
Yes, yep.
So which is segues into all the military service you've done, you've probably you picked up some afflictions. If you want to talk about that.
Sure, I could talk about that. I'm very open about that. Well, my military service has not come without a cost emotionally. I do have some afflictions physically and also emotionally. So I do suffer from PTSD. I have some uh, uh, back issues and some leg issues and some joint issues and things of that sort. But one of the things that I found especially troubling was I have these very debilitating sleep disorders. Um, and so, it's all, nightmares and things of that sort. And so,
Oh,
um, which is all tied into the trauma that I experienced and the things that I saw. And so the reason for that one, as you held up the emotional healing, those coloring pages, very important for those that are, and you can see that there's 9 volumes of those, and those coloring pages. So when you open up the one side, so on the left side of the page, is a very intricate geometric shape that you can spend hours coloring in with the coloring pencils. And then on the right side is a journaling page that you can journal your thoughts of the day.
hmm.
So each of the volume has 31 corresponding shapes and then 31 journaling pages. So I put those together for um, focused attentiveness. So to get your mind off of these traumatic events and really focus on something in through meditation. And so that's something I've done to help myself, and then I publish those volumes to help others. I do receive a great deal of care through the Department of Veterans Affairs. Um, for my own emotional care, I receive both secular and non-secular treatment, uh, and um, and with drug therapy and the rest, I do the care that I receive is very good and very, very helpful. So I'm very grateful for all that the
Yeah.
Department of Veterans Affairs does for me. Yes.
I don't think they get enough, just
Hmm.
superficially. I don't think they get enough credit. You always hear negative things, but so that,
Yeah.
there's so much positivity there as well.
Yeah, no, they do. They've taken very good care of me, and I'm very grateful for that. Yes. Hmm.
And FWIW, a couple of weeks ago, because I'm, 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 I'm so gifted to have people like yourself chat with me, and it expands my world and my horizons, and I was so intrigued to talk to you, knowing about your military background and the fact that I didn't have a military background because I came out of some really difficult times in the 60s. That's where I came
Hmm.
from. And I still wrestle with, as I mentioned to you before we went on air, I still wrestle with those issues. Uh,
Hmm.
do right? Am I right? Am I wrong? And some of that energy compelled me to write my book that I wrote, and I deal with some of those issues. Actually, in the middle of everything, and the fact that I didn't have military service, I actually found a passage from Shakespeare, whom I hated. And I don't mind saying this on air. I detested and still do William Shakespeare. Hate him. Why? Because I never understood him. Ever. But there, I don't know, it was a mysterious thing. There in the middle of my writing and dealing with my own shortcomings and feelings about service in the military, there I discovered Band of Brothers. It came from, I forgot, it was Band of Brothers. He wrote one of his plays, he wrote, and he described it verbatim that these Band of Brothers, we fight together kind of thing. And it made me feel better about myself.
Hmm.
Powerful stuff. But I wanted, to share. What I wanted to share is coincidentally, a few weeks ago, I interviewed a former chief engineer. Watch where I go with this, Bob. I interviewed a former chief engineer from the space shuttle. Brilliant guy. I mean, off the charts.
Hmm.
He had since retired from the space shuttle stuff, and he invented some kind of a thing. His name is Mark Fox. I'm not promoting him. I'm just, but one of the things he invented is some kind of a device that sends all kinds of particles of energy, resonance energy into the body, and one of the things you can use it for is PTSD, and that's all I'm going to say
Hmm.
because I don't know, but kind of fascinating. It is fascinating because you meet such interesting people. I just want to go off topic a second before we dive back into this. This is just to lighten the air a little
Hmm.
bit. I like this question, and actually, I borrowed it from one of my favorite journalists, maybe my favorite journalist, Barbara Walters. What a pioneer! They had a special on ABC about Barbara Walters last week, and it's like, oh wow, you just don't realize how amazing she really was. But she always used to ask this. So here goes: excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. And it could be a couple of people. There's no rules here.
Excluding family or friends. Well, I mean, obviously the first one is Jesus, right? But and we can talk more about that as we talk about faith, but um I think for me it's Thomas Paine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because what I love about Thomas Paine, and he number one, he wrote Common Sense, right?
Right.
And he was, just such a revolutionary. He was uh, from the revolutionary era, but he was so he was a contrarian, right? Obviously, he was very outspoken. He was a deist. He questioned everything in his faith, right? And he's just such a he's a protagonist, right? And an antagonist as well. That's where the contrarian thing comes from. But I just found that when I must have read Common Sense several times, and it's just such a fascinating read. And if you put yourself at a time in our nation's history when outspokenness, especially at that time, and revolutionary thought would would cause you to be immediately hunted down and executed without due process, right? Uh, but nonetheless, those men, our founding fathers, sought it fit to do just that, to stand on principle, right? Remarkable men,
Correct.
and really kind of ordinary men,
Correct.
right? Very, and the thing was too, they were very, very young men, you know, uh, very young. I mean, some of them were older, yes, but many of them were young and just so principled. And so one of the things, and of course, I don't know if I can get the quote exactly right, but the quote that stands out is those things which we consider lightly, uh, or we esteem lightly, those things that we take for granted. In other words, that's what he's trying to say. We, um, it- and he wanted us to consider those, principled things. And then, but we have to, there's a struggle involved in everything. And if there is no struggle, we don't hold on to them tightly. In other words, and I can't recall the exact verbiage, but that's really what he was talking about.
So
Without struggle, those things really don't become principled, right? In other words, they're
the
fleeting.
struggle helps increase the value.
Yes, yes, yes.
It, it,
So I
it,
think I would like
I like that.
to um to uh to sit down with Thomas Paine. Um and if there's somebody else, the other person that comes to mind, of course, um now no, to me, one of my childhood was Jerry Grody. And I don't know, now Jerry Grody was a catcher for the New York Mets.
Baseball. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So when I was a kid, right, I used to get catcher's mitts because I was a catcher, right, in Little League and all that. And I always wanted the signature Jerry Grody catcher's mitt. So I looked up to Jerry Grody. And so I'd like to just sit down with him. But one family member that I really look forward to meeting in heaven um, is my distant relative who I write about and talk about. He and really led me to writing. Uh, his name was Abram, and he fought at the Battle of Gettysburg and survived.
Wow.
And I have a letter that he wrote to his brother describing the Battle of Gettysburg.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I know he's a distant relative, but uh, I really look forward to sitting down with
Wow.
Abram and talking about his, because I have this letter and it's written in prose, of course, that's how they used to write. And it's just so fascinating to hear him describe the Battle of Gettysburg. He fought on July 3rd. And his depiction of the battle is poetic, but you can hear the anguish of losing men
Yeah,
during that day of battle. It's just phenomenal the way it's written. And so I think those are the people.
that's
But
great.
of course, number one, I would like to the
Sure.
top was, of course, Jesus. I
Yeah,
can't wait to be
yeah,
in the arms of my Savior and
yeah.
talk with him, right? So,
I often have it's not flashbacks, but somehow I see myself in a valley in mountains
mhm,
and listening to somebody talk and we know who that is. I see that.
mhm.
I can't explain it. It is what it is. Um, all right. One other little light question that I like to ask. Do you have any favorite movies?
Yeah, I think I mean just the one that comes right to mind, certainly, is the outlaw Josie Wales.
Oh, love that.
I mean,
I love that movie.
I mean, it's just one of those movies that, yeah,
I love that
uh,
movie.
yeah,
I love when the guys in, early on, and these two mountain people capture him, and
hmm
Timothy Bottoms or Sam Bottoms is laying there dying, and throws him a gun, and he shoots the guys, and I love when he meets with Will Sampson at the end of the movie,
yes, yes,
who's a Native American anyway, and
hmm
meets with Milson, and they talking about it's better to live in peace than to die, and living in peace, and they do that Native American ceremony.
yes,
They cut
yes,
which I love, and I write about
yeah,
that. They
yeah,
put their wrists together, but a great movie. I agree with you. Um, uh, I'm a big From Here to Eternity fan.
yes,
And maybe once every 6, 7 weeks, I literally watch it. There's nothing like the last scene in the movie when they're throwing the Deborah Carr throws that that Hawaiian lei into the ocean, and Donna Reed and there's a legend: if it floats to shore, you'll come back. If it goes out to sea, you won't. And the war is beginning, and it was just so powerful. And I wish I wrote that. Not James Jones. I wish I wrote that. Anyway,
yeah,
okay, moving along.
hmm
You told me what a story, uh, uh, and what a story of 6 years ago, as you're wrapping up your very honorable military career in the Navy. You're with a military psychiatrist. So tell me
yes,
about that. What happens?
yes,
Wow.
yeah. So, you know, we think we have everything planned out according to the way we see it or we envision it, right? So, as I was getting ready to retire, I was sent to see an Army psychiatrist for an emotional or behavioral health screening, which means they got to, somebody's going to figure out what's wrong with you after all these years of service, right? So, um, so reluctantly you go over it, and really what you want is just please sign this paper so I can get on with my the paperwork drill to get out of the Navy, right? But of course, um, the psychiatrist was and his staff was doing their due diligence because they recognized that there was something very wrong with me. Now, I had recognized that there was something very wrong with me early on, but for fear of missing out, you never say anything because it's such an honor to serve with these men uh, in these environments. You just you'll do everything to shield your infirmities, and to be with them, to go to deploy, right? Because if you mention something that's bothering you, or that something's ailing you, that something's wrong with you, they'll keep you behind. So you just, put things beside, stuff it down, so that you can continue to go downrange. So anyway, I'm sitting with this Army psychiatrist in his office, and we're talking, and all of a sudden he mentions God, and I just was taken aback, and I could feel this in my body, and it was the Holy Spirit working, and I could feel the electricity. And after that meeting, I was on my way back to the Pentagon, and I thought, there it is. I'm going to go to seminary. Now, if you had told me before I went into that office, oh, excuse me, sir, I have something to tell you. On your way out, before you go back to the Pentagon, you're going to enter seminary when you retire. I would have said, you're absolutely crazy. Why would I do such a thing, right? But that's what happened. That afternoon, going back to the Pentagon, I thought, I've got to enter seminary. And that's what I did. That At that time, that was probably mid to late summer, and I retired October 1st, and I began um, seminary later that October. So that's how quickly that all
Yeah.
manifested itself. And I let the Lord lead me. Of course, I didn't necessarily let him. I just surrendered myself, as we all do in these particular times. And the path was before me. And so I just followed his lead. And I finished seminary, and the rest, the books, if you look behind me, here's some other books that I've written.
Yeah.
And it's The Warmth of the Gospel. There's two books there. There's another book, kind of philosophical book, um, My View of What Others Perceive. I've written, and three of the 11 books that I've written have garnered international impact book awards.
Wow.
um, all these things have, since I've retired. So uh, I mean, I just, I just don't know. It's just, there's no way else to explain it. Again, if when I retired, if someone said, "Oh, by the way, you're going to write all these books," there's no way. It's impossible. You know. By the way, you'll have your own podcast. No, I don't know how to do all this stuff. What,
By the
it's
way,
just,
you and
you
I,
know, yeah, yeah,
you and I
right.
are
It's the same.
brothers. You know,
Yeah.
the brothers here, because uh,
It's just,
I retired, and all of a sudden I'm doing a million different things. Uh,
yeah,
I've 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 written. I didn't even tell you. I've written two books, which I showed you. I always, there's a tortoise in my hair, Journey of Spirit. And then I didn't even mention this to you. A long story, but 10 Things I Learned from the Billionaire is going to be published next month.
yeah. It's
Who
just,
knows?
yeah. And that's the absolute beauty of life is, we think that we have we're the master of our destiny, right? We're going to chart our own course. But when you surrender your will to the Almighty, it's already predestined. It's predetermined. You just allow him to lead you. And, now it's not easy, you know, I mean, when I finished my first master's, and when I finished my graduate degree, I'd said, "Oh, I'm done." Then I found myself pursuing a second master's degree, right? So I finished a second master's degree. Then I said, "Oh, I'm done." Now, then it's all of a sudden I'm going for my doctorate. It's just, who would have thought?
Correct.
And then when I go back to high school, I remember my guidance counselor in high school. I can remember the gentleman, he told me one time, you know, you'll never go to college. So That's what he told me. But it's
Wow.
okay. I mean, when I meet him one day, I won't point my finger at him. I'll just embrace him and say, thank you for kind of pushing me along. That's all, right? Because maybe that's one of those driving factors in your life that I have to appreciate that because
Yeah.
he actually told me that. I'll never forget it. You'll
Wow.
never go to college.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
So there you
But you
go.
you use that as a piece of energy to help propel.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Because I had a relative uh who and it's funny how these things I had a relative who told me I'd never amount to anything. And I'd wind up living where my parents lived in a little apartment in Florida. And when he said that, that just blew me away,
Mm.
and it angered me. And I actually fed off of that just about every day of my life. I think about that, and it's a piece of energy that I used productively
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
push you, and you were pushed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I have to be thankful for that, right? And not spite him for
correct.
it, but just
No,
just
actually,
thank you. Yeah.
you put the person on a pedestal because they gave you a piece of
Mhm.
energy and motivation to help move you on, and you feed off of that. Well, you and I are a lot alike. I'm just discovering that. I mean, we're not alike, but we're alike
I
in
understand.
different
Sure.
areas, and so I now attribute our meeting to the higher ups.
Right.
No, really,
Yeah, yeah, of
our
course.
journeys, different journeys, but
Mhm.
uh, and actually another question. So I think I know the answer, but you're such a philanthropist these days. What led you to that? Is this spiritual element to you
hmm
to philanthropy?
Well, yeah, I because of the having been exposed to abject poverty, just seeing the and then the worst of humanity, right? Not just in Afghanistan, but certainly that in a war zone, right? It's when you see that firsthand and what people do to one another. But I've also seen abject poverty in the Philippines, in Southeast Asia, right? And it's just it's just etched in my mind. And so, um, my wife and I, we are blessed to have all we need so that we can satisfy the wants of others.
Nice,
And that's how we go through life. And
nice,
so we help people out in the Philippines. My wife is from the Philippines. And so she is very focused on fundraising for schools there in the Philippines and other cultural groups and things. Um, and so we help out many people there as well as large family there, family members. But we also are focused with people not only in Afghanistan but in Africa as well. So our reach is very wide, and sometimes we just look at one another and we just say, how is it possible that we can do this? Um, and it's because um, we don't satisfy our wants. We satisfy our needs. And then so we can satisfy the wants of others.
nice,
That's it.
nice.
And like for instance, with all that I offer, the books, for instance, um, I 100% of everything that I collect goes to the Philanthropy Corporation. And so I handle all the administration expenses myself as my own contribution.
Mm,
I don't want to take away from donations to satisfy the administration, right? Because then I'm taking away from people's food and care, right? So that's how I do it. I actually make my own donations to my own corporation. I'm not a very good businessman, and in other words, but that's how I'm led to do it, right? Because I don't want to take away. from someone's gift to satisfy the wants of those that are in abject poverty. So I take care of it that way. And but I have so one of the things we do is we have what's called Threads of Hope, and we have a seamstress academy in Kabul, Afghanistan, and we teach.
Wow.
We have a wonderful woman who instructs young women how to sew, and so that way they can sew clothing, and then of course it has to be a male. A family member can then take those and sell them at a bazaar, and then they can earn a little bit of money, whereby they would never have the chance to. Right. And so, so that's, I support this Seamstress Academy, and we call
That's
it
great.
Threads of Hope. And
Wow.
so, yeah, we do things like that. And then we feed the poor, and we feed orphans and widows and things like that. So
Nice.
we just, and people say, well, what difference does it make if with there's 4 million people in that city, and how many widows are there? And if you're only feeding 25 or 50 widows, you're feeding 25 or 50, whereby if you don't do anything,
That's right.
those 25 or 50 are starving. So, I mean, it's not necessarily, you know, the reach, it's as that you're reaching, you know,
Yeah.
that's how I look at it. We're extending ourselves further than 3 feet, right? And we're just trying to do good in this
Right.
world. And that's it.
You
So,
know, you made me think of listening to you. You made me think of one of my favorite sayings. Now, I'm not sure. It might have actually come from the Quran or it might have come from the Bible. And I think about this a few times a week. And it goes something along these lines. Thinking of you, Bob, he or she who saves a life saves the world.
mhm.
He he who saves a life saves the world. So if you're saving one life, you're saving the world. It's a beautiful thing. I think about
It
that all
is,
the time.
because we don't understand the generational impact that one life saved has, because that person likely will go on and have other lives attached to it. We have no idea what the outcome of those lives will be,
Of course,
and how that one life could go ahead and change the world. We just don't even think about that,
correct.
right?
And the
And
impact,
so,
sure.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly,
Yeah, it's a great thing. I think about it a couple times a week.
Mhm,
Sometimes if I'm down on something and pieces of energy to kind of move you on
mhm.
and so forth and so on. As we kind of wind down, um, do you have any future goals besides getting your doctorate?
Well, I would like to continue writing, certainly. I that is beginning to be something that I really look forward to do. I would like to uh, expand my reach, of this philanthropy corporation, to help more and more people. But if I could, I would like to once again farm. Uh, I
Wow.
really would like to do that,
Wow.
because one of the things that I do in my leisure time, and I noticed it, is that I like to watch, of all things, farming on YouTube. So
Oh,
yeah, it's when I was a young boy, I had this uncle, and I can't remember where it was. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, but he had a dairy farm in upstate New York. Beautiful farm. And I remember he was milking cows one night, and I went out to see him milk these cows. And I remember I was standing behind one of the cows, and pulling on its tail. And as fate would have it, as cows do, they gotta go, so they go. And that cow went and it covered me, right?
Oh,
And so, of course,
oh,
I'm 5 years old. I'm crying. I'm covered in cow manure.
oh,
And so my uncle came over and he's cleaning me up. And he says, and my nickname was Butch, right? So he said, Butch, let me tell you something. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna clean you up, but I don't think it's gonna wash off.
uh, wow,
Wow. See, so now
wow.
fast forward 20 years or so, I'm raising my own cattle, right? Right. And now fast forward, now I'm in my mid 60s and I'm watching YouTube videos about farming and I'm connected with I have some of my good friends. In fact, I just befriended some wonderful people. Their YouTube channel is Ranching Sodak in South Dakota. They're Matt and Kari Feldhaus. And they're wonderful people. And I just love to do it. Not, they farm like 4,000 acres. That's too much for me, but I would love to do I used to farm like 150 acres.
Wow.
And I'd love to do it again. It's just something that it just never washed off me. And I would love to do that, make hay and, have cattle again and just, kind of retire in that kind of setting. Just something that doesn't wash off, I guess. So
Neat.
that's it.
Here's where we part. There's not 1 ounce of farming. Although I love going to farms and getting fresh produce and apple picking and I mean I love that. I love the smell of the earth
Mhm.
because it's a wonderful smell. I grew up in the city, grew up in Newark, so this stuff is kind of remote. And it's funny, I still have great memories. One of the most vivid, powerful memories is being with my grandmother. She lived in a place called Plainfield, New Jersey, and then there's some mountains nearby, the Watchung Mountains, and there was a tomato farm near there. And whenever I'd go visit her, we'd go with my uncle and my grandmother, and we'd go to this tomato farm, and that's still part of me. And
Mhm.
it's one of the most powerful memories.
Yeah.
I, it doesn't settle into my wanting to farm tomatoes.
Yeah.
So,
I
uh,
think I did. I think I did send you a couple of pictures from the farm. If I
you
don't,
did. I
I
have.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I sent you my prize bull,
Yes. Yes.
and I sent you when we were making hay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, and I'll get around to when I put
yeah.
together the promo to kind of
But
put that up there.
love
Um,
to do it again. Yes.
so, Bob, this has been really special and
Thank you. For
illuminating.
me too. Yes.
Yeah, truly special and illuminating. And it's a good time to kind of. I'd love you to come back when you get your PhD. Uh,
Mm,
Come
thank
back.
you.
Let's talk. You're a fellow podcaster, so I'm here. I sit in this chair 12 hours a day. So please do come back to be continued because you're delightful and your background is so exceptional and diverse and fascinating. And top of the list, serving our country that way is remarkable
Thank you.
stuff. And I find you remarkable.
Well, thank you so much, Calvin.
So
Same here. I think your story is so remarkable. All the things that we talked about,
yeah,
the how the Lord has touched you
yeah,
with your health, your vision, and just remarkable uh, how how the Lord has interceded in your life. Just
dramatically so.
incredible.
You know
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Dramatically so. I didn't even tell you the last. Hey, I've had this terrible AFib for
Hmm.
15 years. And it's just, and sometimes it gets really bad, and they put me in the hospital for 5 days last November to try to fix me up, and they gave me the most powerful powerful drug they could give for AFib. And they said, you take the drug, we have you in the hospital because you could die. It's such a nice way to go into the hospital. You could die. But we have to watch you, and so you won't die. Well, that's so nice. Anyway, they gave me this powerful drug, nothing worked. And then they paddled me with electricity, they put me to sleep, and they paddled me, twice. Nothing. So they sent me home. I spent Christmas at home. And then in January, I went to see them, and they said, Calvin, your body wants to be an AFib. It's a progressive disease. Live with it. As long as you don't have terrible symptoms, live with it. So that's how they dispatched me. And I love these guys. They're brilliant, wonderful cardiologists. So in February, I had an epiphany. I said, and I've read every article, everything you could read about AFib. I'm almost a doctor, not quite. And then I said, I'm going to take my body, and I'm going to restore it like you restore a computer to 6 months earlier. I'm going
Hmm.
to I'm going to take my body and restore it to what it was 40 years ago. Um, I'm going to lose weight. I don't. I haven't even smelled alcohol in years, which is great because there's all kinds of bad stuff coming out about it.
Hmm.
But anyway, I lost lots of weight, and I'm at my lowest weight in 40 years. And one day in February, I woke up, and I have this little thing here. It's a wonderful thing. Um, Bob, this is an EKG machine.
Mm.
You
Oh,
put
I've
your
seen that advertised. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on TV. You put your two fingers like that, and in 30 seconds, it spits out an EKG, 100% accurate. And I test myself every day. And in the middle of February last year, I tested myself. Boom, normal, normal, and I've been normal now 8 months, 9 months. A gift, an inexplicable gift. I go to see my cardiologist in March and April. Hey, what's the deal here? I'm normal. We don't know. So I
Can't
know.
explain it. Yeah.
I know.
Yep.
You
I'm
know.
with you, brother.
Yep,
Yeah.
I know. Uh, uh, it's nice, and I meditate and spiritual stuff, all day long, and it's nice, and this has been so special. So, I'm going to stop recording. Don't leave. We'll do, a 30-second wrap because you got to go. This has been just so special. You're special, and thank you.
You're very welcome, Calvin. Bye bye.